victory, which is, oh man, it's so sweet. Especially seeing, and it wasn't a lot of the Pistons fans, but just a lot of other people, or a lot more ignorant Pistons fans, who ripped the Derrick Rose signing when it happened. And now for him to, give us a win, our fourth win in 5 games, turning the season around a little bit, although it has been a more cupcakey part of the schedule. But even in the beginning of the year, the Pistons were struggling with the good teams, the cupcakes, pretty much anyone that you put out on the floor against them. And now they're making their way back to, well, they're trying to climb back to 500, trying to climb back to a respectable record at 10-14. And it's a road win, which we haven't seen a lot of this year. Before today, they only had, like 2 prior road wins. So it was a really good win all around. And the best part, besides Derrick Rose's, heroics at the end, of course, is that the Pistons did it without their 2 best players being effective at all. Blake Griffin only had 5 points. He shot 1 for 9 and didn't really give you anything elsewhere, right? He only had 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. So he's pretty much a non-factor in the game. He was actually a negative with the 4 turnovers that he had. And then Andre Drummond as well, 13 points, 10 boards, which is, it's still a double-double, obviously, but it's a really pedestrian double-double when you consider Drummond can consistently go for like 18 and 15. We've seen him have multiple 20-20 games, and even him shooting 4 of 11 tonight. And then also Luke Kennard, if you want to throw him in there, only shot 5 of 12, had 14 points. So it was really the play of Derrick Rose and a play from a lot of guys on the bench that were able to keep the Pistons in it and then eventually give them the win. They had helps from a huge third quarter where, they outscored the Pelicans 34-21, and outscored them by 13 in that quarter, essentially, was really essential to the game to come out of halftime and really play the best sequence of basketball that you played in the game. Some other notes from the game, some other players that just played well. Langston Galloway, who's he's really been consistent all season, 16 points, 6 of 10. He knocked down 4 threes, and then Svi Mykhailiuk, his stat line won't pop out at you. Only 8 points. He did have 2 steals, which is nice, but 1 rebound, 1 assist. But it just seemed like he was making plays. Watching the game, it seemed like he was everywhere that the box score wasn't really accounting him for, and he still was able to knock down 2 threes. So you got part of that value that Svi's able to bring you as well. And then Christian Wood, 9 points, 6 boards. Playing in 15 minutes. He got to the line a lot, so it was a real aggressive game from him. Only 2 of 2 on field goals, but he was able to shoot 8 free throws. Now you want him to make more than 5 of them, but you like seeing the aggressiveness that he's able to kind of give you and point it out. But yeah, man, that Derrick Rose buzzer beater is it's so exciting just to see the Pistons win like that after you already saw them lose like that this year on the Malik Monk shot. But let's get into some of what you guys are saying anyway. Jim Wells, nice win. Absolutely, it was a great win. Austin Daniels says, what a game. You think that we should pursue Russell? It's D'Angelo Russell. I think we should, but I just think D'Angelo Russell's a really good player. So no matter what you think of the Pistons, if they should buy and try and climb up the playoff seeding this year and win now, or if you think that the Pistons should rebuild, D'Angelo Russell is only, I don't even think he's 25 yet. I think he might only be like 22 or 23. So that's a guy that you can end up, building with really no matter what. And to me, he's a fantastic player. I love D'Angelo Russell's game. Jim Wells got Mavericks Thursday night. Yes, we do, and that's actually a game that's in Mexico City. And being that it's on Thursday and at 8:30, I'm not sure if it's a TNT game. It would be weird to me if the NBA scheduled a game in Mexico City and didn't make it like a nationally televised game. So I don't know if it's on TNT or NBA TV or something like that. But it would stand to reason, at least to me, that the Pistons and Mavericks playing in Mexico City would be a game that's seen by more than just the FSN Detroit crowd or the Fox Sports. I think it's not Southwest, maybe Fox Sports Southwest crowd that Dallas is getting down there. I'll look at that later. I was wearing my Derrick Rose Pistons jersey tonight. Then you, Albert, brought us all the good luck that we needed. Brian says Russell for Andre straight up. That would help us. I'm not too sure how that helps the how that helps the Warriors. If they're getting rid of D'Angelo Russell, they're going to want picks, which would be the one reason why someone might balk at the trade on the Pistons side, is that they don't want to give up, any assets. But to me, D'Angelo, again, is better than any assets that you're going to end up getting, especially if you think the Pistons are going to, especially if you think the Pistons do end up making the playoffs this year, where their pick isn't going to be, top 10 anyway. It'll be, 15 or 16 that they had this 14. Sorry, my math was off. But, they'll have the 14th or 15th pick that they had last year. And you obviously saw them get Sekou with that pick. So it'll be another pick like that. It just won't, won't be like high lottery round. Game not on TNT or NBA TV. Well, that's strange for the NBA to make you play in Mexico City and then not show everybody that you're playing in Mexico City. But I digress. Flat brim, oh man, oh yeah, I can't do the baseball caps like, just like you see elsewhere. I enjoy my flat brim hats. Infitted caps, no snapbacks, not here, not yet. We're railing against the culture that way. But whoops. Yeah, the Pistons have the Mavericks on Thursday, and then obviously it's a game against Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis. So, you might get some of your more casual Pistons fans tuning in just to see great players like that play. And then, obviously going against the Pelicans tonight, the Pistons were able to get a win over the Pelicans aren't a good team, and they made some weird coaching decisions tonight. Instead of starting Lonzo Ball and Jackson Hayes, they went with Kenrick Williams and Jahlil Okafor, which it's an interesting decision to say the least. But the Pelicans are a team that, obviously are still finding their way. They've been hit with some devastating injuries too, most notably, obviously, Zion Williamson, the number one pick. So you didn't get to see him tonight. And his progress seems like they're just bringing him along more slowly. So we're not going to see him as much as we want. Brian, they need a legit score to complement Blake. Well, that's what D'Angelo Russell would end up doing. And that's kind of what they've tried to do. And, they need, in my opinion, they need like a more of a wing scorer that doesn't need the ball in their hands. That's kind of why Derrick Rose and Blake, when they're on the court at the same time, it doesn't really work and it doesn't look the best, is because they both need the ball. But if you can get a wing scorer and somebody that, they can get the ball and then just kind of be aggressive with it, even a guy like Andrew Wiggins, and I'm not saying that the Pistons are interested in Andrew Wiggins or anything like that. He's just an example of a player who can get the ball on the wing and then, go. He can't really shoot, but he will shoot. So he gives you that threat of at least, just kind of putting it up. It's on NBA League Pass. Well, I think every game's on NBA League Pass. At least the way that I do it. Maybe you can. I think you can just get specific teams. TNT showing 76ers and Celtics and Blazers versus Nuggets. That's trash. But I understand why the TNT doesn't want to put the Pistons on. That makes absolutely all the sense in the world to me. But again tonight, it was really, if you're going to kind of point to a Derrick Rose game in Detroit, it was tonight. And you talk about college football, a lot of people having like those Heisman moments. This was it. I know Derrick Rose had plenty of good games early in the season. He started off, his first 4 or 5 games, he was on fire, averaging like 25 points a game. But tonight, 21 points, 7 assists, and then obviously he had the score at the end. And he's really the only source of, not the only source of offense, but he was the main source of offense for Detroit. And the special part about this night, as opposed to one of the nights early in the year, in the first 4 or 5 games, is that tonight Derrick Rose didn't really have like a running partner. Langston Galloway did come off the bench and contribute, but that was more, like spot up shooting, essentially, that Langston was doing, as opposed to the first couple of games where even when Derrick Rose was going, you had Andre Drummond going off for, 25 and 20 as well. And tonight we already talked about Blake, playing very poorly, Andre Drummond playing poorly, Luke Kennard shooting poorly, Bruce Brown, Tony Snell. You're not getting anything from the starting lineup. So the fact that Derrick Rose was able to come off the bench and then give you everything that he was able to give you, and really kind of put the team on his back, shows you really exactly why the Pistons got him. It's for situations like this, and it's for games like this, because even when Reggie Jackson comes back, Derrick Rose is going to be closing games. Now, he might be closing games alongside Reggie Jackson. I expect it to be, Blake, Reggie, Derrick Rose, Andre, and then probably Luke Kennard, who are closing games for the Pistons if they ever get healthy. I would say when, but of course that's never a guarantee. But if they get healthy and they get their full team back, Derrick Rose is still going to be on the floor late in games. And then last game he was on the floor late too, and they were able to end up doing some damage there. So you love to see that. You love to see, kind of a plan come together, if you will. And the reason why you get somebody is it starts materializing into, it starts coming into fruition and materializing into, why you ended up getting that player in the first place. And tonight, Derrick Rose showed really a perfect example of why the Pistons picked him up. And, just everything kind of about Derrick Rose's story as a basketball player, not necessarily off the court, but as a basketball player, it's something that, you more or less love to see, as the kids are saying nowadays. But, other than that, from tonight, there's really kind of not much else to talk about. Obviously, the one thing is front and center. But again, the defense played pretty well. They only gave up 103 points to a team like the Pelicans that loves to run and they love to get out in transition. And the Pelicans have guys that can do damage against the Pistons. Drew Holiday, traditionally he's been really good against the Pistons. And Brandon Ingram kind of assumed that it wasn't Anthony Davis but Anthony Davis was a guy that for years averaged like 30, I think he averaged like 32 or 33 points against the Pistons, and just every time he played them, he would absolutely murder them. And Brandon Ingram did his best to replicate that tonight with 31 points and 6 rebounds of his own. But other than Ingram and other than Holiday, the Pistons were really able to keep everybody else in check. JJ Redick going 1 for 10, 1 for 8 from 3 with only 3 points is the biggest reason the Pistons were able to get it done on the defensive end, because he's a big part, of course, of what the Pelicans like to do. And the fact that he's shooting 8 threes and then missing 7 of them is always going to bode well for the side that is going against the Pelicans on that night. And then tonight, it was the Pistons. They were able to get up. At first, they got down early, which, was a back-and-forth game, and I like winning the back-and-forth games a little bit more than the blowouts, only because you get to learn a little bit more about the team. So the Pistons were down early first. They went down 12-4, I think, until like the first TV timeout. And then they kind of fought back a little bit. We're still down at the quarter. They were still down at the half by 6. Obviously, they have the big big third quarter where, they enter the fourth up by 7. And then just in the fourth quarter, it was kind of, just really blow for blow, like I don't want to say heavyweight because it's the Pistons and the Pelicans, but it gave you that kind of feeling of just, you got hit in the mouth and then you hit him back, and then you got hit and then you hit him back. And then obviously the Pistons were able to get the final blow, and it really came down to kind of the final possession. I know the Pelicans were able to get a heave late where they got, they tried to tip it in at the end, and of course it just didn't work out for them the way they wanted, but it obviously ended up helping the Pistons in that way. So those are the types of games that you like to see when you win. And even if you lose, depending on how the game goes, you like to see your team have a little bit of fight and bounce it back, especially after I don't know how many games it was ago now. It was probably a week or so ago, maybe about 10 days ago, where Blake Griffin essentially called out the team's toughness and says, we like the feeling of winning. We just don't want to work hard enough to win. So that also seems like it's a message that's gotten through to the team more or less, because you see, especially the bench stepping up lately. We've already talked about Langston. He's been pretty consistent all year. Derrick Rose, after he came back from his injury, he's been dipping down a little bit from his play at the beginning of the year, although that wasn't going to be sustainable even if he stayed healthy. And then Svi Mykhailiuk, who's been really, to me, incredible these last couple games for the Pistons. And maybe it's just because I like him that I'm probably overrating him and his play a little bit. But, it seems like that's a guy that he understands this is his opportunity to show that he can play. Because, of course, he came over here last year from the Lakers. I believe this was in the Reggie Bullock trade. And he just, he was able to get on the court, but only sparingly. So, you see Thon Maker played 3 minutes tonight. He's been phased out of the rotation, but that was essentially Svi last year. He'd get in the game for anywhere between like 3 and maybe on a good night, he'd play like 10 minutes. But, through the summer league, through the preseason, it's a guy that's just really worked to get on the court. And he knew that the Pistons got him for a reason, and they kept him. They, obviously they put him on the roster for a reason. And now it seems like he's taking advantage of that opportunity and seizing the moment and, letting them know, hey, I can be a fixture on this team this year. I am a guy that you can count on to give you. Tonight he played 20 minutes. If Reggie comes back, you expect that to probably dip a little bit. But, he wants to be counted on as a guy that can give you, 15, 18 minutes a night. And then, if you need him, because your team, of course, doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to health with guys like Derrick Rose, Reggie Jackson, who are directly ahead of Svi in the rotation. If you need him on a night to give you 25, 30 minutes like he's already played this season. So that's what I really like to see from a guy like Svi. And then again, Langston just being that kind of consummate professional, consummate veteran. And it's interesting. I saw we talked about it maybe on one of the last game reactions we did, but essentially how Langston is playing like a guy who, if the Pistons decide to sell at the trade deadline, Langston is probably somebody that you can get assets back in return for because he's played so well. That's a guy that would be very valuable to contenders. But also, if the Pistons are going to sell, you expect them to be in rebuilding mode. And from that aspect as well, Langston could be very valuable here. So I don't know who it was. I want to say it was either Lazarus Jackson or Rod Beard, two of the writers who, if you follow like Pistons content on Twitter, they're two of like the top guys. And one of them, there's so much scrolling you can do on Twitter that I forgot which one of them said it. But, one of them was talking essentially about, I'd like to actually see the Pistons try and bring Langston back, because no matter what they do, if they're trying to win now, he's obviously a vital part to that. But if you need guys for the future and you start to rebuild and you're actually collecting assets, then Langston is a guy that can kind of mentor the younger guys, even just throughout the end of his contract, because he's been there before, right? And he's a guy who's by all accounts is really friendly to the media, so he can just be like a really good mentor for young guys, not only that they have on the team right now, like Luke, like Svi, a guy like Jordan Bone, who's kind of been a little bit up and down. Guys like Sekou, even though of course they don't really play the same position. And then if you do end up getting younger assets back, or if you get, of course, assets through draft picks, and you have Langston here next year, he can help just kind of develop those guys and really teach them what it's like to be a pro. Kind of guide them throughout the NBA season, so that they don't lose their way, or that they have a easier time, just kind of assimilating into the professional lifestyle. But those are like my favorite guys on the bench, I guess, is the point of the long rant that I went on there. Do you have anything else? What is our average on offense and defense? Do you know? I assume you mean like points per game, maybe you mean defensive rating. I'll go ahead and look that up for you. I know we played better on defense the last couple games. Most teams outside of Milwaukee who put up 127 on us. Most of the other teams were between like 98 and only like 110-ish points, which if you can hold somebody to like 105 or 103 in the NBA, you have a pretty good shot of winning. And I know I just touched my head with my finger again. Whenever I go back and look at these videos, a lot of like the frozen thumbnails on Facebook, not necessarily on YouTube, are me doing something like that, and I absolutely hate it. So I'm trying to be more conscious of it, but it got me that time. But let me start with defensive ratings in the NBA for a team. Boom. Team defense, and we'll see what the Pistons are looking like so far. Defensive rating. Don't tell me we're last. We're not last. There's no way. 19th. So we're at 109.8. And then it doesn't tell me. It doesn't tell me how many points we give up a game, but defensive rating is a better way to measure it anyway, because it takes into account pace and kind of field goal percentage and things like that. That, obviously points per game just doesn't. But let me go team general defense, and then team general. Do we have scoring? There we go. And then as far as offense goes, that's a whole lot of stuff. Shot dashboard, scoring. I don't want any of that. I just want two offensive rating, minutes, 2 point. That's not helping me out, is it? Miscellaneous. Nope, I don't want it. It's 2. If I just go to traditional. Let's see. Well, so we'll just go to points per game for offense, even though, again, just like, offensive rating is better. I can't find that off the top of my head. But we're 18th there, where we're at 108.7 a game. So the Pistons are 18th in points per game, and then they're 19th in defensive rating, which puts them, really kind of average in the NBA, which is probably where you thought they were anyway. But that's with the defense stepping up the last couple games, and then we still don't have Reggie Jackson, who is a catalyst on offense, and our offensive and defensive numbers are both better when Reggie Jackson is on the floor. And then obviously we haven't played with Blake much of the year. The bench played great tonight. I don't get why Drummond keeps getting in foul trouble often like that. If he managed to stay on the court tonight, they would have won by double digits. Maybe. I mean, so Drummond didn't play well, but part of that could be that he just wasn't able to get into a good rhythm tonight, because, like you said, he did get in early foul trouble, but he was still only 4 of 11, and he was only able to grab 10 rebounds. So I don't know that if tonight was just an off night for him, if you're giving an inefficient Andre Drummond more shots, I don't know really how that helps you guys, or that helps the team win by more. But, I'm sure they go hand in hand. I know Luke got into some early foul trouble too, and that's one of the things that seems like it's kind of been happening more so the past couple games. What you don't like to see is, the Pistons fall behind usually early in the first quarter, and they're, kind of playing from behind because their guys are getting in foul trouble, whether it's Andre, whether it's Luke. Blake's picked up, or Blake's been in foul trouble here and there. To Bruce Brown, Tony, pretty much everybody that you can go on the roster, and then that might just be the same for every team. Is every night you get a guy or two in foul trouble. But for the Pistons, it seems like it really hurts them in the first quarters. Like tonight's first quarter, when I think it was Luke and Drummond were in foul trouble, that had the potential to be way worse than it ended up being. The Pistons only, went at the end of the first quarter only down by 4, but just kind of given the lineups that were being trotted out there, that kind of could have been the difference in the game if the Pistons got down by like 10 early in the quarter, and instead of 25-29, it was like 25-35, something like that. And if you just play the points game from how, subtraction and addition, right? If the Pelicans have 6 more points in that first quarter, then this is a game that they probably end up winning. And luckily for the Pistons, it didn't end up biting them tonight. But it is something that, especially when you go against teams, like if you go against a team like Dallas on Thursday, if you're going against Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, if you're getting in foul trouble and then you're bringing in worse defenders, because there's really nobody on the bench that's a good defender. Your best defender is, of course, Bruce Brown, and if like Bruce Brown goes into foul trouble, then you're probably putting maybe like Tony Snell on Luka and just praying for the best, or you're bringing in the Markieff Morris and hoping that that he can do something. But it's not an ideal situation for the Pistons, because their bench is usually fairly thin. There's a couple guys that we talked about that I like on it, but again, these aren't guys that you want playing super huge minutes. So I'm very excited that that they were able to get the win tonight, and hopefully they can keep their guys out of foul trouble on Thursday, because you're going to need all the horses that you have to beat the Mavericks, who've been playing very well. They're at 16-7, and obviously the Pistons are at 10-14. So it's about 6 games better than we are, but hopefully it doesn't matter for a night. Says earlier, the win over the Pelicans. Remember when Lonzo Ball got out hyped by his father when he was a Laker? Do you consider Lonzo Ball a bust? I don't, but I also love Lonzo Ball. So again, some bias there, like we talked about with Svi. But And you can just, quickly on LeVar Ball. Yeah, I mean, of course you're going to hype up your son. Like, why would you not? And I understand if you say no, LeVar shouldn't be as flamboyant as he is, but I mean, that's how he's been able to market himself and make money off of himself. And then it gets his sons in the spotlight. And Lonzo obviously was the number 2 pick, and the Lakers fans didn't really like him, but I like Lonzo Ball as a player a lot, and he's still really young. And they know it's working for, LaMelo too, who's played overseas. I think he's with an AAU team now, or high school, something like that. It's kind of hard to keep up with him. But LaMelo Ball is a really highly touted player in this next up and coming draft class. It didn't particularly work out for LiAngelo, who's the middle ball brother. But 2 out of 3 getting your kids into the NBA isn't bad. So shout out to LeVar Ball in that aspect. But no, I don't consider Lonzo a bust. It's still young though. But that's pretty much what we have for tonight. We got some things cooking up in the pod, of course. If you guys have not already, make sure you follow our Sports Carnage podcast. Go ahead and jump on I just did the finger thing again. Go ahead and jump on that little description right there that's in blue. Make sure you're on there. Make sure you're subscribed to our channels on YouTube, on Podbean, Apple Podcasts. So every time we drop a new one, you guys can get notified. We have our fantastic editor, Matthew Basson, who he's actually at the Pelicans game tonight because he lives in the New Orleans area. So he was at the game tonight, and I'm sure he was very happy with the Pistons win. I haven't checked my phone yet, but I'm sure he had already mentioned it. Excuse me. And then shout out to the not San Francisco, the New York Giants as well, who might get a third win, and then be closer to bumping the Lions even higher up in the draft. So let's go Eli Manning. Go ahead and finish the Eagles off. But yeah, follow us on, again, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Facebook is what you see right there, just Sports Carnage Podcast. Or on Twitter, it's just @SportsCarnage, and you guys can follow us there. And then every time we drop a podcast, which is usually on Thursday, you'll be able to follow us from there. I know we have like our college football bowl selection special in a couple of weeks. The one we did last year was really fun. Obviously, if you look for the bowl games now, it's not going to matter. But if you just want to listen and laugh, there's a lot of really, really fun content on there, of course, as there is every week. And this week, there might be some playoff talk, maybe not. I'm not too sure what's going to happen, but regardless, it will be beautiful. So go take a look at the Sports Carnage podcast again. Make sure you click that link in the description there. If you're on YouTube, it'll be the link in the description below. Whoop, right there. But yeah, go ahead and follow us, subscribe to our channels, rate, review, comment, share with your mothers, your fathers, your grandfathers, your daughters, your sons, whoever you guys have in your life. Thank you, everybody, and good night.